Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Marketing Corner.
Woo! I hurt my ears.
Yeah, that was
my
that was a
gourd.
really loud clap
That was-
before. We are today at episode 147, closing in at 150.
My IQ.
It feels pretty special. Today we're gonna talk about a little bit of a funny topic, and it's a big shout out to Timmy, our lovely co-producer here, who came up with this idea. And he asked essentially you and I, Jen, like, did we, us two marketing nerds, end up here, and would we do it again? And I think the last part is really interesting.
That's really interesting. Yeah.
So we thought that's cool. Let's do that.
How did we even get here?
How did we get here?
What?
So I think I'm gonna pass the ball to you first, and hopefully we can cover both sides, so your story and my story. But I'd love to start with you. How did you end up here?
That's weird. Okay, so thinking like way back, my dad was a salesman.
Yes.
And my mom was a graphic designer, or back in their heyday.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if that was like the origin of like where sales and design come together.
Yeah.
Is that marketing? But I've always had like a creative streak. And I was doing a lot of customer support. So I guess a little bit about my background was my first real job was in England. So I studied abroad, got a job, and it was always like helping people. So I was helping international students. I was helping, recruiting international students, bringing them to England. And kind of as part of doing that, right, you have to market. You have to talk to why people should come to you and things like that. So, but I always took a more customer success role.
Yep.
And then when I went to FIFA, I was client services. So again, working with customers. But what I noticed was that the more I invested in communications, the less stupid questions I would get. So when I looked at my data, I saw like 65% of my questions that I would get as a customer service rep was, how do I reset my password?
Okay.
Right? So I'm like, this is not how I'm going to live my life.
I was about to say
right?
that's a good use of your time, Jen.
Right? So especially when there's like a forgot password.
Yeah,
So I like started doing more comms, and then
Yeah.
they saw that I was actually pretty good at comms, so they had me take over the Twitter. And then the more I kind of put information out there, it actually made my job easier. So I was like, oh, I think I might be kind of good at this marketing thing. And then when I was able to relocate to Denmark, that's where I was like, okay, I'm going to reinvent myself. I'm going to do marketing.
Yeah.
And then that's kind of how I went into marketing. And then I guess that's like the origin story. And then we can talk a little bit about that path. But that's where I started. How about you?
So that's a good. Yeah. How did I fucking start?
Your parents are both marketers,
Yes,
aren't
they are.
Yeah.
Somewhat. Yeah, they are. So both of my parents have a background in marketing. My dad has a little bit more of a sales background as well, but he used to be also the CEO of some big companies. And he used to be, first he was like the commercial officer, so, handling both, a lot on sales, but also on marketing. And my mom used to work at an agency, like an ad agency and stuff,
cool.
way back in the day, before Facebook, stuff like that. But still. So it's always been in the cards that it wasn't too far away to go into marketing for me. I think that's also, so right after, what do you call public school, I went to, in high school, I already selected, you could go to our business high school in Denmark.
Right, yeah.
So already there, I kind of made my decision that I was going to go that route. I wasn't going to go into engineering or anything else, right? So I already knew then, and I already started studying marketing. I think another part of it is, and then I started one of my first jobs beyond like gas stations and stuff like that. I got to be a phone salesman at the age of 15, 16 or something.
Yeah, I did telemarketing as well for
Yeah.
a bit. Yep.
I did it for 5 years.
Oh, no, I did
Yeah,
it for
yeah,
like
yeah,
a couple
yeah,
months.
yeah,
Oh, 5 years.
Yeah. And that was really healthy, but of course that was hardcore sales, right?
Yeah.
And in the meantime, I studied, and then I thought, okay, then I was going to go into politics because I thought politics was really interesting. So I studied international business and politics at CBS, university style. But then I also discovered I like the business part, but the politics part, I actually don't like that at all.
I know, thank you.
No, thank you. I don't. But so I took some I just started like, okay, maybe I like marketing. But then I got another job after the phone salesman job. I got a job as a outbound sales rep, but also handle our marketing at a small scale up thing, right? And I quickly discovered I hated calling. And I think it was like, what I discovered, it's kind of funny because like I had a really interesting entry into sales, but then I also had the entry where like the toughest part of sales. So I was like, I was looking at my life and it's like, am I gonna? Because I was really good at it. I think that's a really important note. I was actually really good at phone sales. Like
Okay.
I was one of the best in Denmark.
Yeah.
I was
Okay.
really good.
Hey.
I was
all
making
right.
a shit ton of cash and I was not that old.
Okay.
But I hated it. God, I dreaded it. Like it was killing me slowly. And then I got into social media, like a little bit, started dipping my toes. And then because like I always thought of marketing, the old school type of marketing. And I found like that was actually not that interesting to me. I didn't,
What
like,
do you classify as old school?
I think like when I looked at the old marketeers, I found branding to be kind of interesting, but like coming up with these like, really creative, cool, big concepts. Don't get me wrong, I find it interesting, but that was not what I was into. And I think somewhere along the line, I've always been a huge nerd.
What?
What? I played a shit ton of World of Warcraft, right? I played a lot of games. Yeah, I was super nerd. I played
was a
chess.
jock, so.
Yeah.
And look at us now.
And look at us
now.
go. Here
We're
we are,
friends.
right? And I played it, and what I was figuring out is that because initially I also wanted to be more like into gaming, like in the gaming industry, like develop games or stuff like that. But I was like, I'm not that nerdy. I'm nerdy about the content, but I'm not a programmer nerd.
Right.
And then
Different layer nerd. Different kind of nerd.
So I was looking for some sort of world where you could combine the nerdiness, like the tool software. That was interesting. That was exciting, or I got a kick out of that. But I was also a little bit tired of selling to people. And then I found, then I started Trustpilot, where I got to, I ran some of their social media and did a lot of stuff on Twitter. And that's when the first time I really started to dip my toes into like tools and automations and stuff you could do. And that's when I think it really bit me.
Yeah, you're really into the tools, whereas I'm more into like the
100%.
content and the branding side. You're a very toolsy kind of guy.
Absolutely. That's
You're
also
a massive tool.
Yeah, I'm a massive tool. I had a call yesterday with a client, or the CRO was just like, Casper, you're such a tool wizard. I'm like, okay, sure.
Sure.
Yeah. But and that's when it really bit me, I think. And then I slowly, then I came to another startup, and then I came to Templify. And that's when it really connected like a lot for me. That's where I think I found my path, but that's essentially how I got started.
It's funny you talk about uni because I just had a recovered memory. So my undergraduate degree was communications and sociology.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to, I don't know, communicate, but also understand the world in which we live. And I remember, this is where we're going to realize just how old I actually am.
It's fine. You can say.
It's fine. But no, I was in college in the 90s.
Oh,
in the
God.
late 1900s.
Oh, God.
And this is like,
I was just a kid.
yeah, you were a wee bairn.
Yeah.
We still didn't have Facebook. Facebook didn't come out until I was working in London. But I remember the internet was still relatively new. It was still kind of dial-up era.
Yeah.
America Online, AOL, ICQ. And I wrote a thesis in my one of my comms classes about how, get ready for this, the internet will create communities, global communities of X-Files fans. I did a specific case study on the X-Files. This is at late 1900s, kids.
I hear you.
Where, and how and that's kind of where, and my professor's like, this is really thought-provoking. I was like, I know, right? And then, so it was just kind of funny that like my degree is not really marketing related, and it was very before all the tech that people use now. Like so many people now, you kids, I didn't have the internet growing up, but I think it's just really interesting, the path. And I guess that's what we wanted to talk about. And then, much like you, I joined Plan Day. Shout out to Plan Day as their intern.
Yeah.
And then it just I remember I used to write a lot. I had a blog. I did this marathon thing where I had thousands of followers, and I was training for the world's hardest marathon.
Yes.
As someone who's never done a marathon before, and so I did a blog about that experience when I lived in Switzerland, and it took off. And so I was like, oh, I really like this comms, and I would brand, and I would coat multi-channel, Instagram and Hipstamatic, if anyone remembers that. And then I really got into it. So I was like, okay, I want to write, but there's no money in that. Yeah. So how do you make money in marketing? So I wanted to learn Google. I wanted to learn all that. And so I found, when I moved to Denmark, I found the perfect internship where they were going to teach all that to me, but in exchange I had to do the writing, and that was Plan Day. And then they sent me to LinkedIn Bootcamp. They sent me to Google Ads Bootcamp.
Yeah, and you learn all of it.
And then I learned it all, and so that's kind of, I think when I look back of like what put me on the path, it's Plan Day.
Yeah.
And I try to give those people a shout out. Christian, John, France, all the guys who believed in me and trained me
Yeah.
and made those opportunities. So do you have anyone in your life that kind of like I have from Plan Day where it's like, okay, here's my chance and
Oh, but 100%. I
Yeah.
think the biggest one is probably Glenn and Rasmus from Templify, right? Like especially Glenn, right? Like he was my boss and a good friend, right? And Rasmus was his boss, right? And they both saw potential in me. So I just finished uni. I was done with my stint at Trustpilot. There was no full-time job for me there, unfortunately. And then I had to join a small Temply, was the name of the company, small startup. I crashed and burned down in 4 months, right? That was a little bit of a nightmare. And then I joined Templify, right? And so, it's a
and that was a
classic.
hell of a growth journey.
Holy,
Templify was
yeah, it was massive.
everywhere,
Like, this,
yeah.
this is where I learned everything. And it was also back in the growth at all costs era, so it was a good
Yes.
time to be
That was
part
fun.
of it.
That
It
was
a
me
good,
at Plan Day and-
way
yeah.
more fun to be marketeer back then.
Oh,
I just have
girl.
to say it. Like,
Girl.
let's just be real. It was way more fun.
Way more fun. Not as productive.
Not as productive,
But
not
a lot
as
of fun.
insightful, all that stuff. But it was way more fun. We just have to say it. But I think that was kind of the trajectory that started really there. I think an interesting question, like that Timmy also raised here, like, would you do it again? Like, are there anything where you feel like, knowing what you know now, this is not what you should have done, or you should have chosen a different path? I have a few takes on that, but I don't know.
It's hard to say because I'm very happy where I am.
Yeah.
And even the bad decisions, even the toxic workplaces
Yeah.
that I ended up in still put me here where I am. I think if I could change one thing, I wish I had gotten more technical.
Yeah. Okay.
So like you with tools, I always had like Christian Jorgensen, shout out.
Yeah.
He was my tool guy. So I would come up with the topics or like, I want something that can do this. And he had a brain like you where he was like, beep, boop,
Yeah.
beep, boop, bop. And he would do the Zapier and I wish now in hindsight, I had done more of that. I wish I was a
Yeah.
little bit better at HubSpot. I wish coding, I would have liked to have had a better technical background
Yeah.
than perhaps I have now. That's probably one thing I wish I had done a little differently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good point. Like, it's funny because, like, I also sometimes think, initially in my career, I thought I was supposed to be more technical. Actually, I was like, I had it as a goal when I was at Templify. I remember that I needed to learn how to code. And I was like, I need to learn how to code because then I can do all this. And then I think along the journey, along the way, I discovered I actually didn't need to learn how to code. That was not the right path for me.
Yeah.
But one thing I have thought a lot about is that now I'm the same as you. I don't really I love and like where I am today.
Yeah.
Like I really do. So it's not like that. But there are things where you're like, as an example, I'm really good at sales. Like, I think I'm a really good salesperson. Like, I have a lot of, like, don't get me wrong, I'm also a very good marketeer. Like, I'm probably better. I don't know if I'm best. I'm probably better at marketing than I'm sales, but it's intertwined.
Yeah.
But I think because I had this like experience in sales, then I kind of like ruled out sales as an option because I only thought the only way to do sales is to sit there and call 100 people a day on the phone.
Some people still think that's the only way to do sales.
And still some people do that, don't get me wrong, but that's not how I would like
Yeah.
it to be. But I thought that was the only way to do sales. Where I have some other friends from back then who went the enterprise account managers, whatever direction route I'm not necessarily that's for me, and that's not what I'm saying, but I'm just saying they went I have one friend I remember he said like he used to work at Oracle, I think, or something.
Yeah.
Enterprise sales. He like makes one deal a year or one deal every 3 months or whatever, and then he makes a shit ton of money on that.
Yeah, my cousin also.
And it's just about
there.
relationships and just by like taking them to dinners. I'm like, I would be really good
could
at that.
do that. I could
do
take people
that.
to dinner.
Yeah, I could do that. I would be pretty good at
I'll
that.
take you to a really nice restaurant.
So I think if I had to look back, I think my view on sales was probably biased in a bad way because of my experience. And I think if I could go back, I would at least have given it a shot, maybe. Like,
Yeah.
but then again, I wouldn't have ended up where I am. So maybe that's not correct.
That's a
but
bigger change than mine.
that's a bigger change, but
swerve,
it's just,
yeah.
it's at least an observation where I'm like, okay, there's something I saw the wrong side of the coin, if that's
Yeah.
so to speak. Because like sales sales is tough. I'm not saying. I think one of the things I'm happy with. I wouldn't want to be in sales permanently, right? Like it's a tough, man. Like we sometimes talk about how tough marketing is. Whew, sales is also tough. Like you literally, I talk sometimes with people who are like, you had a good quarter, yeah, awesome. You had a bad quarter next, you're out.
Yeah.
It's
yeah.
like-
It's very cutthroat.
It's very cutthroat,
And I
and
think
you have
it takes
to.
a certain personality.
And here I think even though I gotten tougher over the years, my personality's not made for it. Like that part at least.
Yeah. I think for me, the thing I really like about marketing the most is that blending of statistical
Yeah.
with creative. And maybe you can do that in sales. I just think in marketing, I'm just so much better placed to go, here's what the data says. Let's come up with a creative way.
Yeah.
And the salespeople who do that well also come up with creative ways, right? Instead of the call, make a new pitch or try a different approach, right? So I think that's one thing I really like with marketing. And one of the things he talks about, what twists or turns turned my career. This was also something I was thinking about. So my first speaking engagement, I was an intern at Plan Day.
Yeah.
And I was in charge of Facebook ads.
Okay. Yeah.
And I killed it.
Awesome.
I was killing it. And we increased our lead generation by 400% in like a year. And so I wanted to speak at Inbound. I had a dream. So I remember
that.
I first wanted to go to Inbound. I wasn't allowed to go because it's in Boston, guys. It's not cheap, right? It's not a cheap thing. But in Plan Day, my first year, I was like, I really want to go to Inbound. They're like, sorry, it's a bit expensive. Fair enough. And then the second year, I was like, I really want to go. And here's 5 things that I'm going to bring back. And my boss let me go. Shout out to John. He said, okay. And he sent me to Inbound. And I learned so much. I came back and I implemented what I learned. We saw like the hockey stick when it came to inbound lead generation. Yeah. The quality was okay. Like the quality was good. The cost per lead was very, very good. So we didn't break the bank. We saw a huge jump in revenue.
Love it.
And so I applied to speak at Inbound, saying, I learned this at Inbound. I did it. Yeah. Here's the result. And I want to talk to everyone what I did. And I had to do a video because they want to see, they want to see your portfolio. They want to see you speak elsewhere. I had never spoken it anywhere. No. So I like put my little iPhone 4, or whatever it would have been, up on a pile of books. And I had like a blazer on and a nice shirt, but I had like pajama pants on. And I just spoke to the camera as if I was giving a talk. Okay. And I got accepted. And so next thing I know, I'm flying out to Boston. I'm staying in a really nice hotel, like in the venue. It was in the Heinz Convention Center. Yeah. And I spoke in front of a sold out crowd of 400 people for my first speaking gig ever. Wow. And in the crowd was someone from the Journal of Brand Strategy who were like, we love this. We think it's really great. We want to publish you. So I was like, okay. So I went ahead and I was like, okay, you can publish my talk. And I had to write the article in an academic way and cite my sources. And then someone read that article and they said, we want you to come to Sweden and we want you to give this present. And it just snowballed from there. And then like in the last 11 months, I've been on 16 stages, but it was just that one opportunity. And I don't want to make it sound like everything's been handed to me. I didn't take what I was learned and I actually implemented it and I drove results. But it's just funny how that one thing that you do, it starts like snowballing. You're running downhill and next thing it's like, okay, and now I'm published. Okay, now I'm being flown out to Sweden. Okay, now I'm being flown back to Boston. Inbound invited me back the next year to another sold out talk. Yeah. And it just boom, 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 boom. And here I am with a podcast with 11,000 listeners and what up? Speaking at Growthphoria 2026.
Yes.
Hey.
Oh, it's on.
So is there anything in your...
I'm so excited about that.
It's going to be great. Is there anything like... Sorry, that's my like this
one
little
thing.
That's
cool.
Like, do you have anything like that?
I don't think it's the. I'm just thinking here a little.
Quite so dramatic.
Not as dramatic as that. I think that's a pretty big unlock. Because like I'm looking at like I had. Don't get me wrong. I had a bunch of big, not as big as that, but a bunch of big speaking gigs as well. Like I spoke at there was a conference back when Falcon was still a thing. They did.
That's where I first met you.
Yeah, we met at Spark, right? So.
And I was like so excited to meet you.
Yeah. Yes.
How wild is that?
That's cool.
How the tables have turned.
Yeah.
No. Exactly. I just remember meeting you and I'm like, hi, Casper. And you're like, hey.
Hey, what's up?
Who the hell are you? No, you were really nice. But,
but I think that was
Spark.
That was called Spark.
Spark, yeah.
It was so funny. I actually had a picture of it as my background cover for on LinkedIn for ages.
Really long curly hair.
But I had really long hair. But I think the cool part was it said Spark in the background. So I had Spark Force and Spark. I was like, that's cool. But then I was like, it doesn't look like me anymore.
It doesn't look like you at all.
I don't look like that anymore. So like I had to replace it. But I think that was a pretty big milestone. And that was still when I was at Templify after a year or so there, I think. So, but I don't think I have the same. I'm just thinking aloud. I think one of the things that are a little bit different, at least from my perspective, is probably the first time I went. I started freelancing a little bit, like side hustling more in my case, where. And that's because so my pivotal moment in my career that also changed me a lot was probably when I literally started posting on LinkedIn. Yeah. Like that for me is a little bit more because that was back in, I noticed it in 2016. There was a lot of these changes on the algorithm, all that stuff, and I started posting late 2016, early 2017, and then I immediately got traction and got a lot. And I think one of like a good example, it's not one of, but it's like a good example. I was into watch. I can't remember what Star Wars movie. I think in the movies, and there was a bunch of people that I used to work with at Trustpilot.
Okay.
My old team. It was like 8 or 10 people I knew, and they would all literally come over to me. Hey man, how's it going? I see you on LinkedIn all the time. Super cool. And that was one of the moments where I just remember I'm thinking like, fuck, I'm onto something.
Yeah.
I'm onto something here. There's something's really good, because like everyone's just like, yeah, you're killing it. Like, am I okay? Cool. I
but
guess.
that's so weird when that happens because I had also an tech barbecue. I was with people.
Yeah.
It was a couple of years ago. I was with people I knew. And someone came over and was like, "Are you Jennifer? I listened to the podcast. I'm a big fan." And it was like, "Hey."
Yes. Hey.
And then all the people I was with were like, "Ooh," making fun of me and taking the piss. But when things like that happen, it's almost like you forget other people are listening to this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I often forget when we talk like this. It's just like it's very close.
Just us.
It's just us talking,
just us
right?
talking
and
in
then
a room.
bunch of people listening. That's really cool, by the way.
But also our podcast, the origin story of that. If
Yes.
we have time, we have a little bit of time.
A little time.
So we were going to speak at Tech Barbecue.
Yes.
It was Corona, so we were in a studio in Metrical One,
Yes.
if you remember.
Yeah, I do.
And even though we had met, we had never actually kind of collaborated on stuff before. And I had just found out I was pregnant, like super early days. And I was like, I'm going to be on a very long maternity leave. Like I think maybe, should we start a podcast? Should I start a podcast?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, if I hit it off with this guy, let's just ask him. And I
But
thought
did you thought that? Okay, that's cool.
I was like, I want to
You
do a
were
podcast.
way ahead of me then. Yeah.
Who do I like? I don't really want to do it by myself because it'll be more
Yeah.
engaging with someone else. This guy seems pretty cool. He has a pretty big following.
Hmm?
Let's see if we hit it off. And then we did. And I think
Yeah.
we had like 21,000 views or something.
Yeah, it was
of
really
our
big. It was one of
tech
the biggest
barbecue
talks.
thing.
Yeah.
It was one of the biggest talks they had. And we had such a good chemistry. And I remember this so vividly. We were standing outside. I even remember what I was wearing. And it was almost like I was going to ask you to be my boyfriend because I was standing there and I'm like, like I had a really great time. And I really think that we have some really good chemistry. And I don't know, like, I don't want to be too forward, but like, do you want to maybe start a podcast?
Yeah.
And you were like,
that's the
yeah.
closest. Yeah. I was like, fuck yeah, let's
It
do
just felt
it.
like I was gonna ask you out, like, hey, so hi Casper. I don't know if you know me, but I had a really great time. I'd like to see you again if that's okay. And here we are. What's it been? 6 years and
Yeah. A lot of
4 kids.
150 episodes later.
yeah.
Yeah. No. And you were way ahead of me because I also felt it instantly, right? But it was I hadn't even gone that route. I think I had been thinking about a podcast, but it hadn't materialized or
Yeah.
anything. It wasn't like no. That's cool. But I think I think that's the nature of how we got here. I think that's also this like we have like both of us have a like a general optimism, right?
Yeah.
I'm actually something we're going to do a topic on. I haven't told you yet, but we're going to do a topic on. I'm just shouting out now because we recently did talent profiles in Spark
okay.
Force, and we're going to I think we should do a whole episode of this. But one of the things is like I'm a rank really high in optimism. I'm like super high. So I'm also that kind of like a yes man, like in the sense that I'm like,
We can do it.
and I think I don't know your talent profile, but I would imagine we have a lot of the same stuff. Not all of it, but some of it.
I'm in the 6 geniuses, I'm an executor.
Yes.
Like get it done.
And I think I'm a little bit different. I'm the starter.
Yes.
Like I'm the innovator starter.
Yes. The wanderer.
Yes, exactly. I have a lot of ideas, but I think so. I needed someone like for the podcast. I had the idea of it, but I needed someone to help me get it to start.
Yeah.
Right, and you helped me do that, right?
And we, in the first few episodes, guys, if you go back, listen to episode
God.
1,
Yeah.
we were on Zoom,
Yeah.
just using our computer mics,
Yeah.
and it sounds horrible, but it was good content. I still think it's good content. But
I still
haven't
think it's
listened-
good. Like
but we sounded awful. But
the sound was bad, but the value in it wasn't wrong.
And I think if we wanted, I know there's one more question he had, but I think the main takeaways from me were like, just fucking do it.
Yeah.
Like if there's something in your head, just do it. Like
Just go
I
ahead.
wanted to speak at Inbound, I just film myself. And if they say no, okay, they say no.
Just
I wanted to
go
ask you
for
to
it.
start a podcast.
Don't.
We didn't wait till we had all the equipment. We didn't wait till we had the big following. We just went for it.
It was so funny because like speaking of talent profiles, just briefly, like we were talking about it in a team meeting here, and I was like, because like sometimes I feel I'm the guy who comes up with a lot of ideas, and then I have a team around me who tells me if an idea is good or bad. Like,
Yeah.
they sanity check it, but they also like, and sometimes as the person who comes up with ideas, you sometimes feel like, hey, man, everything gets shut down, or like not everything, right? But they also reminded me, hey, Casper, if you weren't here, we would be standing on a blank piece of paper, and we'd be like, so guys, what do we do?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
what are we supposed to do?
You got to start the ball rolling.
And I'm the guy who gets
Yeah,
the
yeah.
ball rolling.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not the guy who maintains it, right? If we didn't have Timmy, I would.
Timmy.
And if we didn't have you, like, the podcast wouldn't exist, right? Like, not just. Yeah. We all know, right? So, but I think that's just. I find that really interesting. One last question. I know we're a little bit over time. Would you stay in B2B or would you go to B2C if you had the choice?
I mean, my heart's in B2B.
Yeah.
But I've actually in the past interviewed at some B2C companies, and it seems really fun.
Yeah.
Like photo
There's
shoots and
definitely some fun parts about it.
fun like giveaways
Yeah.
and things like that. And I think you have so much more data to play with. And I worked pretty closely when I was at Verdane with the B2C team. Obviously, I was in the B2B team, but I worked closely with B2C, and just to see some of the stuff that they could do. And there's a part of me that kind of like no regrets,
No.
but yeah, I think I would have a lot of fun in B2C.
I think once I'm done with Spark Force, one day, wherever timeline that looks like, but one day when I'm a little bit either where I step back, sell it, whatever happens, right? Like one day, then I would not be surprised if I would dabble into B2C just to see if I could sell some fucking shoes.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I would love to just like find a really cool B2C product, something that's cool.
Yeah.
And then like, fuck it, let's position the shit out of this. Let's
try. Get it on Instagram. Let's do a fun video on TikTok.
Because also like my brain is also wired in the way that like, because we also always talk a lot about like B2B learning from B2C, but I also think there's a lot they can learn from us.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Right?
Yeah.
Like so, I don't
I
know.
got to speak with Rasmus at Hello Retail.
Yeah.
Which
He was
and
here
that
on
was
Monday,
the whole.
I love shout out to Rasmus. He's awesome. He was
we
here on
love
Monday.
Rasmus. Oh.
He's super into AI these days.
Yes.
Oh
Yes.
my god, he's amazing. Well, anyways,
No, but I got to be a guest on his. He has a
yeah,
video
yeah,
series,
yeah.
right? And it was about what can B2C learn from B2B.
Yeah.
And you know, there is a lot because we have to manage lots of stakeholders. We have to long sales cycles. How do we keep people interested? How do we keep tabs on what's going on? And so I think there's a lot they can learn, but it just seems fun.
yeah, there's some fun elements.
Yeah.
100%.
So if any B2C are out there, and I don't know. No,
Tab
I'm
us
very
in the,
happy where I am.
on the back in the future.
Yes,
right.
in the future.
I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd love to try it in the future. I think.
Or what would you? What if you weren't in marketing? What would you do? Full
just,
stop.
Just like in marketing now.
If you were not doing marketing, what would you be doing? If you could.
Well, I don't actually sales, I guess, but what would I do? I always wanted to be. I think what I discovered around politics was actually I don't like the boring parts about politics, which is like for me that's reading the stuff and like coming up. But what I do like about it is the whole debating and like back and forth, and like not debating necessarily, but more like the relationship building and figuring out stuff together. So I always thought I was gonna be a lobbyist for a long part of my life
okay.
because I think I would be good at that. It's like half sales, a little bit marketing. You have to propose stuff and kind of convince other people. I'm good at that. I
It's
think
quite salesy and a little marketing.
and a little marketing. And I think I think that could have been fun.
That could have been fun.
Yeah.
I think I'd be doing something with my hands. I'm very crafty.
Okay.
This is something I've learned about myself. I like painting. I love
Yeah.
pottery. I like
Super shitty and all that.
I love creating stuff. And like in our family, I'm the one who comes up with the creative, you know, Easter activities and stuff like that. So I think if I had to live a new life, I think I'd probably live in like Skane, you know, with my own pottery studio or something.
I totally
and 12 dogs.
I think I also one thing a career path I'm not sure I regret it because like again I'm really happy where I am. It's also a bit more sustainable, but I could definitely have seen myself as a streamer, like a content
game?
video game streamer, like on Twitch or
Twitch,
something.
yeah.
Because like not only did I game a lot, I think like this is gonna sound arrogant, but I'm quite likable. Like I'm sort of likable. Like I'm such a dick. But you know, I might be quite likable. I'm good at communicating. Like I don't mind being on camera and that stuff. So that's a lot of box checking. I'm not necessarily good at the games,
That could be your niche.
but that could be my thing. Hey,
Yeah.
bad at games, fun at listening to.
Yeah.
Right? But I could have done that. I
So,
actually sometimes I'm like, when I'm done with Spark Force, don't care about money. Maybe I'll just do that.
So main takeaways as we wrap up the episode is there's no telling where things are going to take you.
No.
We don't. No, none of
can't
us.
plan your
I mean, you
life.
studied a little bit of marketing. I didn't study marketing. I didn't really start marketing until I was in my.
I think mine was more in the
30s.
cards than yours.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
to be honest, right? Like,
Boomer.
yeah, a
Boomer
little bit.
generation.
Yeah,
No, I didn't start marketing until about my 30s. So,
Mm.
but you never know where it's going to take you. And if you have an idea, just do it.
Yeah.
Don't wait for the conditions to be perfect because they never will be.
yeah.
And just, take every opportunity you get and
Say yes to a lot of things.
say yes.
Just say yes. It's
Read
just
the
like,
book, A Year of Saying Yes,
Yeah, just or like watch the movie Yes Man.
or that. Same.
Same.
But yeah, say yes, try new things. Don't wait for everything to be perfect.
And then I think one of my favorite things to say is just like, in the end, things always work out.
Yes.
They most often do. Of course,
Look
not
at
always
us.
time. But
Look
like
at
most of the time, things just end up
They
working
have
out.
a way of working out.
They have a way of working out, right? So,
Relax, slap A,
Yeah.
as they say in Denmark. Relax a little
Slap
bit.
A.
Slap A. And follow.
And keep listening to
and
Marketing
keep
Corner.
listening to Marketing Corner where
And
you
on
get
that
all
note,
your tips.
thank you for listening, folks.
Okay, we love you. Bye.